Welcome back to some new PettyRevenge stories. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Building Maintenance. My business moved into a fairly nice building that was recently purchased by a company out of a big city. We were fine for a while, even with building maintenance and ownership being pretty slow to respond to some minor issues. A little while ago, the AC unit that happens to sit above our unit in the ceiling started leaking into the unit. The lease specifically says building HVAC is covered, but the landlord refused to reimburse us for the work that we had to have done to stop the leak. He told us to sue him, knowing very well that 400 is not worth our time. I consider myself a fair person, albeit a little petty. We are an IT company, and although we have a server rack, I have configured our environment to use as little power as possible, even though our power is included in the cost of the lease. This has two reasons. It's good for the planet, and it's reasonable to save the building money by shutting down unneeded servers during off-peak times. Well, after that little discussion, I decided that the rack of servers we have don't really need to be spun up and down every day to save the building money. That alone is worth at least 100 per month in crypto coins. But then I was standing there in front of the rack yesterday, looking at my server filled with GPUs. So now I've got a couple of spare servers running some crypto mining at full tilt 24/7. I'm not 100% sure how much power we are using, but my preliminary calculations put it around 500 per month. And that I find particularly delicious. Personally, I have no need for any of this crypto, so I figured this would be a nice opportunity to support a local food bank with monetary donations from our mining operation. Win-win-win. The next story is called Parking Entitlement. I have bought my own apartment here in the UK and have been living here peacefully for the last 4 years. Saturday, just gone. I was putting my child in the car and a person from another block stopped me and asked me what block I lived in. Just said that block over there and went about securing my child into his car seat. The guy then started shouting, "You can't park here, park closer to your block." I've spoken to the housing association and they said the same. I said this is the first I'm hearing of this, and if there's a genuine issue, I'm more than happy to comply. He then said, "Do not park here and park nearer to your own block." I advised him that this is what I usually do, as it makes more sense for me, as I usually have my child with me. This guy then started getting aggressive, stating he won't talk to me in this way next time, and there will be other methods to put the message across. My car will not be safe. I called the police, and they advised me it is a civil matter. I have since done research, and lo and behold, the deeds to my apartment show that he is actually parking his car in my spot, which I have now paid for. I contacted the leaseholder, and they have put me in touch with the private parking company that keeps an eye on the car park. I have spoken to them and sent pictures of his car, as he had parked in my spot. They authorized me as a user to issue PCN if this continues to happen. I have to take pictures of his car parked in my spot every time this happens, and they will send a fine. I'm only going to do this to his car, as no one else seems to have an issue with parking anywhere else. The third story is called Street Parking. I live in an urbanized area. Most people's only option is street parking, as most residences do not have private driveways. A guy recently, last 6 months, moved into the apartment building across the street and is running his construction business out of it. He owns 4 large trucks, 3 with out-of-state plates and 1 in-state commercial plate. Because he's so inconsiderate, he double parks his trucks so he can get in and out of spots easily. He takes up about 7 spots total, completely screwing everyone else that lives in the neighborhood. Last week I asked him to be considerate of the rest of the neighborhood, since he's always parking like an idiot. I understand you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar, but screw him at this point. He shrugged me off and left his car double parked. That night he was throwing a get-together, where he and about 10 others were all drinking in lawn chairs on the sidewalk, blasting music out of front of the vehicles. So I made multiple calls to the police about public intoxication and excessive noise levels. This led to multiple tickets being issued. I now have started my raid to get his trucks off the street completely. Yesterday I called the local police and got to watch them come by to ticket 2 of his 4 vehicles with several tickets on each. The other 2 vehicles are not lettered with company stuff, but I saw the cops stop next to them to at least run their plates. I'm going to make sure I call every night until they are gone. The next story is called Gave Him My Life. I had a girlfriend. We were bad for each other, and unsurprisingly, she was cheating on me. I found out in a rather dramatic way and had a full-on mental breakdown. The dude had been fed a bunch of lies to keep him from talking to me, and he started threatening me with violence. Long story short, we broke up, she moved out of our place and into his place, and I started therapy. A few months go by, and I realized in therapy that I wasn't just busted up about my ex, but also my whole life. I decided to find a new job, a new place to live, everything. Got the ball rolling, and the day I got my new job offer, I saw an email come in to our jobs ad inbox at the company I was working for. I recognized the name as the guy who was threatening me, and now living with my ex, so I referred him to my boss. Talked about how he was great, I'd only heard good things. And hey, because I was putting in my 2 weeks, they should definitely hire him. The dude comes in for an interview. I'm on the panel. When we are in the room together alone, he's like, "Dude, I'm sorry bro, for all of the things I said. Thank you so much for helping me out." I say, "No sweat. She always had good things to say about you. And I know that she has to be a good picker. After all, she chose both of us." And we chuckle like polite people. He actually does okay in the interview and gets the job. That job was a nightmare. I'm not exaggerating when I say that it is the worst job I ever had. The place that I was moving to was paying twice for a third of the work. I was relieved to be leaving. When I moved out of my place a month later, my landlord asked if I knew anyone who was looking. I gave her the guy's phone number. That apartment was charming when you first see it, but was similarly absolute trash, but you didn't know that until you were living there. My buddy from my old job told me he got the call for it at work and jumped on it. So I knew he had my old bad job, my old bad place, and my old bad girlfriend. I hope he enjoyed my life more than I did, but somehow I doubt it. I do know that they broke up about 2 months later. The last story is called Can't Help. This story takes place 3 years ago. I used to live on the first floor of a corner building. The ground floor of this building was a general commercial unit that had been vacant for about a year. That changed in December of 2020. At that point, our National Post Service rented the ground unit as a temporary place where merchants could drop off packages instead of having to go to the general post office further away. As soon as they moved in, I kept hearing this weird buzzing sound at night, but couldn't really find out what it was. Only when the weather turned even colder, the buzzing got more serious and I couldn't sleep and ventured out on my decking at night. There is an external heating unit up there that warms the commercial unit. It was blowing and buzzing like it was getting ready to spin itself apart. Clearly something was wrong with it, as it's never been this loud before. So naturally, being the social bird that I am, I went to pay a visit to the worker in the post office down below and inquired if they had any issues. They had, and someone would come out to look at it, they promised. I asked if maybe the office worker could shut down the unit at night, but she was kinda reluctant. She told me a technician had instructed her to keep the unit at max capacity throughout the night, as otherwise the coolant would freeze and the unit would not start up in the morning. This was not great news. I was still pretty chill at this point, though the constant buzzing and fans blowing were really annoying. I informed the landlord, and he pointed back at the city who rented the place out to loan it again at the post office. The same day I had a call from a heating technician, as the only way to access the heating unit was through my flat. This guy was really friendly, but only came to take a look and left again. I didn't hear anything from anyone for a few days and got really annoyed. The shop assistant also started giving me some nasty vibes whenever I popped in for an update. After 2 weeks of buzzing and not sleeping, I was completely drained. At this point, I had been working for many months in 2020 in a healthcare function. I wasn't able to sleep, and I had taken my first vacation days in months, only to be stuck at home with a fan blowing and buzzing like a jet engine, just before taking off 24/7, days on end. My place was really small, and there was no escape from the constant droning and buzzing. Now, the holidays were coming up, and I found out the package drop-off down below would be closed 5 days in a row. I went down and probably looked and sounded like a lunatic, drained with exhaustion at this point. I asked the assistant if she could please turn the heating down a few notches during those days. I didn't even ask them to turn it off. Anyway, I was greeted by stone cold hostility at this point, and so I asked to speak to her boss. I got his number and tried reasoning with him. He told me some actual BS about the place being the responsibility of the city and that he couldn't decide anything about the heating unit. I asked him about the name of his contact with the city and he flat out refused, saying it would breach confidentiality and I should figure it out on my own. It was clear he wasn't going to be of any help, so I hung up and retweeted. It was clear that nobody who could do anything actually cared that I was slowly going crazy. It was the 23rd of December and I wasn't going to find anyone at the city who could help me. I relayed this to my landlord, also the landlord of the commercial unit, who was on vacation at the time and would be for another 2 weeks. He wasn't really pleased with the shop not wanting to turn down the unit. I'm a pretty good renter and relayed the best information ever. The fuses to the entire shop were located in the same place as my fuses were. I had complete access to them. Even better, he allowed me to turn off the fuses at night. At this point I was ecstatic. I waited until the shop closed, went to the fuse board and flicked the switch. I went upstairs to my flat and nothing. Heavenly silence. I enjoyed 5 days of complete rest and, for the first time in 3 weeks, actual sleep. I also figured out I just had to flick the main switch to the shop for about a second and could put it back on. The heating unit would have to be manually restarted, so it wouldn't fire back on, not even with power flowing to it. I can't describe how it felt not hearing that ringing constantly. It was almost as if something was missing during the first days without it. Christmas and New Year's passed by and the shop opened up again. Every night I would flick the switch and turn everything off, all with the landlord's permission. After about 3 days I had a vacation day and stuck my nose into the store. The assistant was bundled up and it was way colder there than before. I acted like an idiot and thanked them for listening to me after all and turning down the unit at night. Really friendly of them. The shop assistant told me the unit kept failing during the night and it was a real pain, as it wouldn't work as well during the first few hours of the day, especially on really cold days. Her boss now wanted to send a technician again, but remember, the only way to access the heating unit was through my flat. I kept playing the friendly idiot and gave my number to the assistant and told her to have her boss call me to make an appointment. The same dude who bussed me off before the holidays. It wasn't half an hour before I got a call. I played along for a bit and acted like the helpful idiot once again and told him we would have to plan the appointment around my schedule at work. He then asked what my schedule was like, to which I replied, with the biggest grin ever, "I'm sorry, but sharing that information would breach confidentiality." Maybe he could find that information on his own? Took him a few seconds to realize, and then I just started laughing and hung up. No way was I going to help people that did not even want to work out something constructive when I was the one undergoing the consequences. For the next 2 weeks I kept flicking off the fuses at night and enjoyed the fact that the store would be stone cold the entire day after. When my landlord was back from vacation, I allowed him access to my flat and the unit with his trusted technician. Turns out it was a pretty easy fix. The unit ran normally again, but for the remaining week I kept shutting down the unit by flicking the fuses. It had become a habit at this point. I only hoped the penny finally dropped and I understood who was messing them back all along. After that, the temporary affair with the post service was stopped and the building became vacant again. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.